stop. Just stop asking me to make a double-barreled shotgun. It's like every single video we do, I get like 14 people who ask me to make you know what? Fine. I have made a double-barreled shotgun. Are you happy now, comment section? Welcome back, Guardians, to another TDT video. You know how this goes. You think of exotics, I read your exotics, I think your exotics are crap, or I think your exotics are great. They get featured at the end of this video, as well as we show off some of the exotic ideas that we have from our own personal sketchbook. Let's jump right into it. If you like this kind of stuff, be sure to subscribe, be sure to leave a like, and leave a comment on what you want your exotic to be. Alright, let's just get this out of the way. Double-barreled shotgun. I've made it. Here it is. It's called Sledge. I love the name of this thing, and I have come up with some really interesting perks for it. As you can see by the art, and I'm sure I'm putting this on the thumbnail as well, this is a beefy looking shotgun. And of course it's double barreled, as you can see there, which implies a bunch of different stuff. This is a high impact frame shotgun. There aren't any high impact exotic shotguns right now. So here you go. And also it's kinetic because we've got enough solar shotguns that are exotic anyway. But the flavor text, sometimes there's a need for sudden renovations. The exotic intrinsic perk is called Doom Rounds. Fires a high explosive timed payload that staggers unshielded combatants. So here's the thought, because I already know what you're gonna say. Stop writing in the comment section. I already know what you're gonna say. Whoa, 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 whoa. Explosive rounds on a shotgun will be absolutely freaking busted in PvP. Are you crazy? The amount of range that this would be capable of pushing out would be bonkers crazy. All right, I get that. I understand that. But because it is a timed payload, what that means is that up close and personal, like a normal high impact shotgun would be capable of normally killing a target from like 6 to 8 meters really comfortably, like that range that most high impact shotguns are really known for. There will be like a half a second delay before the explosion actually triggers. What that means is that up in very, very close ranges with things like PvP, it will still kill, but it will have to be like a rapid fire shotgun. So you'd have to be like right on top of somebody. And then in things like PvE, this is just solid. At further ranges, this will still be capable of pushing out damage up to ranges that shotguns typically aren't capable of pushing out. But what I'm going to do in order to kind of balance this out, something I can't list here because we only list the exotic intrinsic perk and the exotic trait itself, is that I'm going to give this smooth bore, which means that its spread is actually a lot wider, meaning that it's going to be a lot harder to hit targets at further ranges. The trait is called Rip and Tear. Kills with this weapon or kills with a melee grant increased resilience and recovery. So the idea behind this is it's like killing wind, except it's for resilience and recovery. The whole idea is that you're going to be pile driving your way through enemies, whether that be PvP or PvE, allowing you to suddenly excavate their faces for a massive auger-sized hole, whether that be in their chest or their facial regions, granting big bursts of damage at longer ranges, and allowing you to stay in the fight for a longer period of time. Yes, there are some references here that if you are not catching, I am very, very sorry for you. But nevertheless, this idea, this exotic, I think is the best way. If we were ever to do a double-barreled shotgun, I think this would be a really good way of going about it. Let me know what you think though. I always lead with the weapon because it gives you guys the best idea of where I am as a designer, like where my head's at. So be sure to let me know if anything's too crazy. All right, next up on our list, we have the exotic hunter armor for the week. Next up, we have Warlock and then a Titan. So if you're one of those classes, by the way, all this stuff is in the timestamp down below. So if you want to like jump to a specific section, do that. You can check in the description. It should be all there. All right. Anyway, let's roll forward. The exotic hunter armor we have for this week is called the Tone Deaf Reach. The flavor text reads, "Well, that's simple. You're as blind as a bat." Exactly. As you can see here, this is a really cool looking exotic. The exotic perk is called Pulse Blade. Converts your explosive knife into a sonar that highlights targets in line of sight for a short duration. Now, Again, PvP players are going, whoa, hold the phone. I know, this is crazy, right? Free wall hacks on a freaking melee cooldown and something you can get back with Gambler's Dodge. I know, but here's the trade-off. Here's the thing to think about. First and foremost, it's not a grenade. You can't like lob it behind cover, right? You have to already have line of sight of that thing originally. Secondly, the explosive knife will no longer be capable of dealing its normal damage. It will only deal just initial impact damage, which is pretty poop, right? It's going to be pretty poop. And I think what we could do is make it in PvP so that the actual impact damage of the sonar knife is actually pretty terrible, but in PvE it's like normal, maybe even slightly above average if we want to do it that way. I know this doesn't directly impact PvE, but sometimes we make exotics that are really obviously only supposed to be used in PvP. Sometimes we make things that are only obviously supposed to be used in PvE. So I think this is one of those exceptions. And in terms of like the range that this would actually have, I'm thinking 10 meters. Does that sound reasonable? You'd obviously still be capable of shooting it, so if somebody threw this out, they'd be able to get some information on you real quick where you are, something like Trials of Osiris. Maybe we could even have it like glow a little bit brighter, something like that, make it a little bit more obvious, so it's got better counterplay. If you can come up with an idea to make this more viable in PvE, let me know. The first thing that jumps to my mind is that obviously when you got things like chaff, you know, when it disables your radar, this would be a good way to kind of like work around that maybe, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I really like this idea of a sonar blade. This has a reference to a couple different things all kind of mixed into one here, so let me know if you catch those. Let's roll forward to the Warlock. And my love of indie developed games, and this one in particular is something I've referenced a few times, is now manifested in the Warlock exotic armor that we have for this week called the Deepnest Mandible. It is obviously, like I mentioned, Warlock exotic helmet in this case. You can see the art is really cool for this. I was really happy. It's difficult to find art for helmets and armors and such because typically people who are out there, artists, don't make them just because it's not as interesting as making like a gun or something like that. But this looks super dope. The flavor text for this reads, the whole area swarms of deadly critters, biting, burning, scratching types. Let's talk about the exotic perk. This exotic perk is, so if the last one was primarily made for PvP, this exotic is made for PvE. The exotic perk is called Nosk's Mask. Nova Bomb teleports to your target and deals increased damage. Think about that for a second. Imagine you jump up into the air and you go to throw the Nova Bomb and it just teleports, just like a blink, teleports right to where you're looking and instantly detonates. Of course, this makes it an absolutely fantastic shutdown super in things like PvP. Let's be completely frank here though, let's be completely honest. It already is, like Nova Bomb already is an absolute monster of a shutdown super. The only problem with it is that it doesn't have some of the other trappings that make it capable of staying up and active for things like, you know, like think Geomag stabilizers on Middle Tree Chaos Reach. Because it doesn't have something that can keep it up so often, it makes it slightly more difficult to actually get the benefit of having this up as often. So the trade-off is, with this, what I have in mind is that this would actually just make it basically a guaranteed kill if you are able to get this thing up and ready, right? If you're able to get the Nova Bomb wind up and then throw, the thing's instantly dead. Now, obviously, in PvE, it's just a flat increase in damage and it makes it more user-friendly. This is something that you always want something like this. I'm imagining sort of like the Celestial Nighthawk of Nova Bomb, right? This is kind of what I'm going for. It's just one big burst of damage. Maybe even conjure in your mind Lance back from D1 if you are a D1 vet. This is kind of like a Lance replacement if you've ever wanted that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But I love this idea, even just for the memes in PvP. Just like imagine teleporting a Nova Bomb across the map and sniping somebody with it. Holy cow, that would be so much fun. But anyway, let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you have any things that might make this a little bit broken. But let's roll on to the exotic Titan armor. The exotic Titan armor we have for this week is actually something I've considered doing on a Titan rework video we did a long time ago. The exotic is called Forgeworn Breastplate. The flavor text reads, with which you can extinguish all of the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take a look at this chest plate here. This is obviously a really solar looking chest plate, and that's what we're going to be playing into here, this fire theme. I'm really happy with how this turned out because as I was going through, so before we get into the exotic perk, as I was going through this, I was thinking to myself, I want the Solar Titan in particular to have a berserker quality, right? Like it just, I don't give a crap. I'm just gonna just push through everything and tear everything limb from limb, right? So this is what I came up with, and I'm super happy with it. Like when I started to break this down in terms of how it would work with each subclass, how this ended up working out. The exotic perk is called White Iron. While Tempered Metal, Sun Warrior, or Roaring Flames is active, you emit pulses of solar energy that ignite nearby targets. So the whole idea, if you were to pick up enough solar stuff, what it would allow you to do is it would emit pulses of burning solar energy off of you. That's the exact idea I'm thinking here. Like every 3 seconds or so, it will emit a pulse that will deal just initial damage, and then it'll burn the target after. For things like PvP, I'm thinking like 50 damage would be fair, and then the burn would tick for, let's say, 21, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but you get the idea. It's essentially like a passive buff to whenever something's near you, you're able to deal more damage to targets that are around you. Now, the cool thing, the reason why I was so happy with how this ended up working out is that it works differently, but it works so well with each of the subclasses. Tempered Metal on top tree actually just has the easiest way of accessing it. You run in, you get yourself a melee kill with that, what is essentially a shoulder charge. It'll weaken things nearby, and then suddenly you are burning them alive. And it already is doing that anyway, so it's just like a big burst of damage as soon as you land that initial shoulder charge, or hammer strike is whatever it's called. For middle tree, it's very easy to actually get this buff active, but the only problem with it is that it's hard to get benefit from it, right? Because typically speaking, with the middle tree, you're gonna wanna stay kind of more at range. So obviously you've got the throwing hammer, so that's kind of more of a ranged tool. A lot of your grenades, of course, will play into that. It doesn't have like the hammer strike like top tree does, right? So you'll be able to get it a little bit easier. You'll be able to stack it a little bit easier. That pulse will also deal just more damage when you get more Roaring Flame stacks active, because that's exactly what the Roaring Flames does. So maybe at like the maximum stacks of it, maybe it can near one burst kill a low resilience target. That's probably a little too much, but you get the idea, right? Like it deals more damage the more Roaring Flames you get up, so that has its own synergy. And then you go down to bottom tree, which has the best time chaining these things, because you can stand in a sunspot, get the Sun Warrior buff going, get a kill, get the Sun Warrior buff again, and continue to string these along. And then if you get any kills with the Solar Pulse, it'll also summon sunspots. I love this idea. I didn't even realize as I was making it how synergized, how beautifully synergized this would end up being, but damn did this turn out being effective. Damn was this really cool. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. Yes, that's right, it is featured exotic time. Now, I've been given flack before for taking somebody's exotic idea and running away with it a little bit. I like to think that I credit them enough, but some people have given me flack here and there. The person who ended up creating this, you can let me know if this ended up being too far off from what you're picturing, but the reason why I do that, just in case you're aware, if you ever make it into a video and if you see me take your exotic and rework it a little bit, it's because I probably found something that either worked a little bit better, something that was just a mild difference in tastes, or I found something that actually was broken and it needed to be fixed a little bit. That's happened a few times where somebody didn't think about a certain interaction that I happened to catch, so a slight rework ended up fixing it. In particular, the featured exotic from this week is from user Cantaloupe, spelled with a K. And his idea is that he wants an exotic Warlock gauntlet called Lifebringer, which these gauntlets, what they would do is on, obviously, you can see from the text here, these healing grenades will actually track targets. So Middle Tree Dawnblade, their healing grenades will actually track targets, and then when it lands near a down target, it will start to revive them. And I think that is a brilliant idea, because this plays into the idea of Middle Tree Dawnblade being sort of your support role. This really solidifies the idea, but it does it from a neutral game point of view rather than the super game, right? Because a lot of the times what we'll see is that we'll see that the Dawnblade will actually be taken for things like PvE in the direction of just like really benefiting its Well of Radiance, and then not really giving too much benefit in terms of its actual neutral game. There are things like Starfire, Protocol, Illumina, that kind of whole synergy, but it's nothing quite so clean and nothing quite so beautiful as this. So props to you, Cantaloupe, but as I was researching this, as I was building into this idea and looking around a little bit, I came across an old Destiny 1 exotic that had a very similar idea. So I'm going to actually, instead of doing the gauntlets here, I'm actually going to take and import the old Destiny 1 exotic into Destiny 2 and then give it your perk, because your perk is genius. The new reworked exotic is Light Beyond Nemesis. Do you guys remember this back from Destiny 1? I certainly didn't. I completely forgot about this. Originally, what its perk did is that it allowed you to revive things faster, and it allowed you to get a little bit of energy, like super energy, off of reviving a target or a downed friendly, but that doesn't really seem to work within Destiny 2 too much. Obviously, now Cantaloupe's idea would work great. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name that's in this flavor text. You can see it there. Let's just actually talk about the exotic perk, which you guys have already seen. Keeper of the Pack, healing grenades track teammates, revives down teammates within its effect nearest its impact. So effectively what you can do is if you've got a down teammate, you can throw a healing grenade on top of them. It will then consume the healing grenade and begin to res the target. I think would be a good way to do this so that it's not like broken things like Trials of Osiris, so that you can still deny the res, is that when it's reviving it, it'll give you some type of like aura effect, or like let the target know, like let them know that they're being res, maybe even mark them to other nearby enemies so that if they shoot the orb, it'll cancel the revive. I think that would still make it a little bit more viable in PvP specifically. I don't think it should do that in PvE because that would be just a complete waste of the exotic. But obviously, healing grenades tracking targets will make using the Middle Tree Dawnblade a hell of a lot easier, which is a great idea. I've always wanted those grenades to track targets a little bit because it's kind of hard to land them out just as they're doing it right now, making this a much better build into the support playstyle for things like PvP or for PvE. Thank you so much, Cantaloupe, for submitting your idea. Like I said, if you have an idea of your own, it doesn't even need to be completely fleshed out. If you just have an idea and you like it and you want to see my over-caffeinated ass talk about it, drop it in the comment section. If you really want to make sure that your video gets seen or your idea really gets seen, be sure to subscribe. It really does help and allows me to narrow it down a little bit easier. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this. Bless your faces and deuces.